Welcome to another episode of the Elevate podcast. I'm your host, Kat, and I'm joined by Dr. Edward Curmi. And today our theme is navigating conflict with calm. Let's start from the very beginning. So to me, Edward, you are someone who wears many hats. And I love careers that are never, they're not linear, they're, not haphazard because your decisions were planned. But I wouldn't say you're doing what you probably started planning to do. So can you sum up the story of Edward?
Okay, so yes, I do wear many hats. Yes, I've got the serious hats, I call. They're all serious in their own way.
Okay.
But most people know me for psychology.
Yep.
And maybe as a clinical psychologist, and that's a serious hat I wear.
Absolutely.
But if I look at my childhood and I start trying to understand, I always used to get bored very easily of just doing one thing, yes?
Okay.
I think the education system that we had and still have doesn't fit always people like me. Although I think I managed I wish I knew from a young age that there were things I could do. That it didn't need to be one thing. We grew up in this idea where we start off in Malta, we have your uccia, no?
Yes.
And the uccia, you pick one thing. And that one thing is going to be a center of your world. And I haven't actually asked my mother what I picked up. But when I think about it, I must have picked more
Not the
than
couch.
one thing. No, I must have picked up a number of things, which I am still, there was a time in my life where maybe I wouldn't show all these different hats I wear because for some reason I was told to be almost like ashamed because as a psychologist,
You should have other business.
you shouldn't have business or, you shouldn't share who you are. You have to be as private as possible. But what I started realizing as I started sort of even working as a psychologist, that the more I talked about who I am and my personal experiences and my stories, which was moving away from Sigmund Freud's work in psychology, the more I was reaching out, the more I was able to connect,
Absolutely.
And I've always been a people's person. I love people. They fascinate me. From a young age, I remember going to pick up my father, especially from the airport, and I'd just be staring at people. But then, I had very fascinating characters in my family. I had my nano who was extremely interesting to me. He wasn't to everyone, but to me, he was extremely fascinating. Well, he had a very interesting history, as a person. He was an assistant commissioner of police.
Wow.
Had been on some real heavy sort of crime scenes. And I just loved his sort of way of looking at life, a bit military, a bit switched off, and at the same time so intelligent, So I've had many inspirations.
So the hat of a psychologist, the hat of in business,
entertainment events, yes. So we do some of the biggest events, and I always said every year this is the last year. Started at the age of 16, 17, still hanging out with one of my closest business partners from that age. We started off just having fun and throwing parties, and today we
bigger organized.
We do some nice stuff.
Big names, exactly.
It's still exciting.
Okay.
I'm growing old, I have to say that, and I'm starting to feel the age, but still the excitement and seeing the business change. I think there's something very special about working in the events, especially, which is, I think they keep you young.
Yes.
You're working with new generations, you're working with new cultures.
Yeah. They have to be fresh. You can't do the same.
I've seen music change, from being all about pop music to now all about sort of these big DJs, which are like the new superstars. So that's another side of me. Then there's Dr. Klown, which I love, which has been something going on forever. It started off, I was abroad, I had met Patch Adams, and that had shocked me, and I had been trained in Vicenza when I was in Italy, and from there I was just fascinated by laughter therapy. Came to Malta
and wanted to start it off.
Went to speak to a private hospital. They laughed in my face with Verosense, ironically. They told me, no, this wouldn't really work. Next thing we know, I saw some sign somewhere that they were planning to do some laughter therapy in Matadei. Joined, wanted to be a clown, because I was always a clown. I remember as a child, 2 episodes specifically I remember going to the circus.
Okay.
I loved not the elephants, not the lions. I loved the clowns.
Not the serious hat, yeah.
And I used
But
a
there
lot.
is a seriousness to the laughter therapy.
Yes, there is. And obviously in Dr. Klown we do that.
Yeah.
But I realized that laughter helped me through situations. As I said, I spoke about my nana. My nana was a very serious person.
Of course.
But then humor used to break, the ice on Christmas Day. So all that tension and whatever, humor was always one thing. And I had an uncle from America who was called Uncle Joe. And he was a real, what we in Maltese we say, pastazon. So he was really funny.
We're not going to repeat any jokes here.
No, but he had the best jokes. And he was rude, funny.
Yeah.
And I realized how it entertained everyone. So
Changed the mood completely.
It's like yesterday, I remember my uncle telling me, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, a clown.
Okay. And now you support clowns.
Yes, I thought I was going to be a clown. My wife doesn't think I'm a clown, She's been amazing because one hat I wear is I'm a father.
As well.
But I don't think I would be able to wear all these hats if I didn't have my wife supporting me. So she's been amazing. But in all this, I thought I was going to be a clown myself. And then I realized they really needed help on the back end.
For sure.
And there was a lot of work on the psychological aspect. And typical me, I stepped in. And it's been a great journey. I think we're something like 40 clowns now.
Yep.
I think we can really go places. It's always so exciting. I mean, laughter is just, I think, one of the most powerful tools one can use. And, I don't think you have to try too hard. It just comes naturally. For me, it's always been like that. I'm a realistic thinker, but a positive realistic thinker. So, what is realistically right, I think is so important. And I worked a lot in emergency. I worked in mental health for many years.
Seen the dark side.
And I've seen the dark side. And I've seen beautiful stories of people who have been so traumatized. And the choice is, literally up to the individual what they decide to do.
Yeah.
So, you have two people dying from the same condition, let's say, like pancreatic cancer.
Yeah. Who's going to choose?
And one is laughing with his family and sort of hugging them, and the other one is like throwing something at the nurse. And you say, they both have the same condition, and how come this one is so, And I think it's because of the attitude, and that's it. I think attitude is everything, mindset, and I live it. I really live it, as hard as it is. I believe that you got a choice. You either go left or right,
And this really leads me, I think, to the next, my next curiosity is juggling all these hats. So yes, amazing wife who handles the twins as well.
Yes, we got twins, complicated too. Yeah, but that's.
You have all of these hats. What keeps you disciplined in being there? Because one thing I know of you is when you're, wearing the leader hat, you are really present. When you are wearing the psychologist hat, you are really present. How do you figure that out?
I think in the serious ones, there's a way which I think I use more maybe discipline and seriousness. Yes, you sit on a couch, you've got to really listen carefully. So I have my rules there. I sleep well, I eat well, and I do exercise, which are the three foundations of what I think I can do today.
To also, represent wellness
exactly.
in itself.
Yeah, I think it's very hard for me to practice. Not to practice what I preach.
Yeah.
So I realized this when I was working in hospital. I was starting to gain weight. I was starting to eat a lot of junk food, going for sugars, because when you see depressed people time and time again, problems or trauma, there are many. I'm a foodie, so my way was always to go downstairs, eat something good, maybe a couple of chocolates, feel better, and slowly I was putting on weight. I was having problems with high blood pressure, asthma was kicking in, and then sort of I said, listen, I need to live what
I'm talking about.
Absolutely. And it's just been a beautiful journey. Obviously, then there's the media side to me, which I didn't speak about, which is Malta Daily, which is an incredible journey. It started from nothing, from chaos. Yeah, because the story there, just to show you, was it was in COVID. in COVID days, all our staff were stuck without doing any events. Everyone was busy.
So it was a repercussion of the event side.
Yes, everyone in the world was too busy, shaming everyone else for what they were doing. You're not taking your vaccine, you're not abiding by the things, you should be ashamed, or you're an anti-vaxxer. And we had like a whole office not doing anything, and it was pretty tragic. We really didn't know what to do. And sort of things got to a point where we were very lucky to bump into a person who had a very good vision of what could possibly happen in the media. And we also believed we needed this as a wing to most of our businesses. And together we sat down. And I think it's been magic, And the turnaround was great. It's so super fast. So I think came at a time when people needed a bit of a breath of fresh air. We try and stay as neutral as possible, although it's not easy in a country like Malta where you're either black or white, you're either blue or red. But we try. I think we try be a bit more sort of light on politics, on everything. So I think that's what I want. Until it's like that, I'm very happy. And obviously we talk about mental health. We give a lot of importance to the Maltese culture.
So there's a thread anyway.
Yeah, there's always something. And there's always something you're going to learn from everything.
Yes.
As long as it fits my identity, I'm happy to do it. When it doesn't, I won't put passion to it.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So.
Okay. So now in wearing all these leadership hats as well, you must have really good teams around you. What do you think is the recipe of being able to be in one place and then leave and let your team let it happen and then be in another role? And how have you managed that?
I don't manage, and it's a fact, sort of, I wish I could put more time into certain things. But as you said, the team, first of all, I'm surrounded by other business leaders like me.
So you share the load.
Yeah, I share the load, but I also trust. Trust is something which doesn't come easy for people. I don't mind risking. And I like to surround myself by young people who can do what I believe I could do when I was their age.
Okay, so you're looking for the most arrogant grinta.
I like that. Some people don't. A lot of people talk about this Generation Z and how sort of... I like, because then I can put my experience on top of that. And sometimes I have to say I cheat and I'll take their idea and I'll use it. So with all these different sort of views and ways of being... Number one, you get to see that beauty in youth. Youths have this ability to be happy because they don't have loans, they don't have sort of the basic.
They don't know the consequences. That's the personal fable, no?
Exactly. But in that simplicity, they can. In their naiveness too, they have the ability to teach you something, and I think they give you vibes, we say, from situations, and you can say, yes, this is not going to work, this is going to work, this will do well. And we also learn the amount of times me and my other business partner who's my age come up and we say, listen, we need to put this up on Malta Daily, and everyone bursts out laughing and tells us, this is so,
Go back to your retirement home.
Yeah, exactly. My daughter and my son are both, Francesca and Luca, they both are every day shaming me about how old I've grown, how I don't understand anything sometimes. But they do it in a very sweet way. They tell me, Pa, get a life. So I think even they are my biggest inspiration. If you ask me who inspires me the most, it's my children.
Amazing.
They're incredible.
So in this shared role of leadership, but you I would imagine slightly different to the leaders you're sitting around because of your background in psychology and the empath in you.
Yeah.
How do you think that contributes to better leadership?
I think being an empath, being able to read people. I mean, remember, I worked in forensic, so my first job...
Very good at recruitment.
My first job was forensic wing Mount Carmel, which was my dream job, and dealing with very difficult traumas people had, and the fact that they were going to spend possibly their life in a room. And from there, I just realized that even from something as desperate as being alone in a prison cell, how creative, how clever, how they had an ability of coping.
Wow.
And each and every person I've ever spoken to in my life, even the worst cases I've seen and the most horrid murders I've unfortunately worked on, there's always a story behind them. There's always a meaning and a purpose, which might be wrong, which might be
For
distorted.
sure, not justifiable, but it came from somewhere.
It comes from somewhere. So nothing for me happens by chance. So if a person decides not to turn up for a meeting, if a person decides to talk to me in a certain way, I know there's something beyond that.
Okay.
It's tiring when you think like that.
Yes,
because you know,
you're always trying to find a source.
And I do have business partners who sometimes says you read too much into things, but I know I'm pretty, my hunch there is going to help. So I'll see things which can happen in 2-3 years' time, you know?
Okay.
And it's not because I can't do the lottery, or I can't do the numbers, but it's not in cases like that. But it's in situations where I can understand a person might want to move on, where a person might have an existential issue. I can obviously pick up mental health issues straight away.
And look out for them immediately.
Yeah, but then I have to also respect the fact that working in a hospital, I could do it quick. But
and you have permission.
And you have permission to do it. But when you're working in an environment of business...
people might not want you to go there either.
And it might have repercussions, me telling them take a few days off, because not everyone might agree with me. So you try and find that balance, between these two. But I don't know. I think I try and bring in a fresh approach. In and out, I must say, I am sometimes seen as a bit of a minimalist on certain aspects because I go in and I go out. And I think that is one of the most exciting things I do. It's frustrating because I get fragmented.
So there's a lot of compartmentalizing it.
Yes, but then I miss half the day.
Yes.
Yeah, so I go there, I do 3 hours there and I'm brilliant and I'm understanding. And then by the evening, I might get a call or an email or a message saying we changed that decision completely. So I have to respect, and that's why I told you trust is really important. Yeah. And if you don't choose the right people around you, you're going to have trouble.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I really believe in that.
And so we've touched on mental health, and I think this is an important one with your competence. What would your guidance be on leaders nowadays? We live in such a manic world, in protecting their mental wellness and that of their teams. What would your few words of wisdom be?
I think, I still go by that huge Harvard study that's still ongoing, and it's a longitudinal study on happiness. I always talk about happiness. For me, happiness is everything. Through Dr. Klown, through myself, unless I'm happy, I can't do what I love, okay?
It's the core.
It's the core. So, the research clearly always states that when you're young and growing up, you think sort of 2 things are really essential for you. Money and popularity. We're seeing a lot of that in social media, how many likes I get, how many...
We live in that world, kind of.
Well, you get those glam people coming and wanting the most expensive sofa, wanting, to be around pop stars and stuff like that. It doesn't really, I've realized it doesn't excite me. I understand it excites the youth and you need to.
And there's a phase of it that people pass through.
There is. And, but that Harvard research then in time showed something amazing, that what gets people to be happy is not popularity and is not money. What really makes people happy is having one person they can connect with.
Okay.
So connection is essential. And if you work in an environment where you don't feel connected, then you need to find somebody who you can connect, because the biggest, I think, sickness out there, I'm seeing a lot in men, because I work a lot with men, is this solitude, this loneliness, So they tell me, listen, I've got everything. I've got 4 Lamborghinis parked in my car park. I've got a wife, I've got children, and they are the most unhappy people, And I say,
why?
Why? Because the thing is, no one understands them. And when you speak about leaders usually, as they go up, feel they can trust less and feel they're more on their own. If they make a mistake, the leader's making a mistake. But if you just like someone starting,
it is a lonely space.
It gets quiet and more quiet. So you have to find a way how to sort of stay in company. And I think you need tools and you need hobbies and you need ways of how you can really just reconnect, even if it's just with a morning running group. I love to run. But when I run with people who have nothing got to do with my life and we just connect because we're running, for me, it's enough to feel I'm part of a community. This thing of community, we don't talk enough about it. But I live in a beautiful village called Boch, and all I see is community. All these lovely people out in the piazza, either shopping or buying fruit, or in the casines, and and
people noticing if you're there or not there.
Exactly.
It's true. There's a protection sense.
I've had a section of the population in their 60s, 70s that start losing their partners, that lose their wives or husbands, yeah. And there, I've noticed again how important connection is, because I think I've made them adopt so many dogs. I'm a big dog fan, but
That's true.
another.
And it makes you meet people along in the street.
It gives
You're
them
right.
a connection.
You're part of a club.
You know, that little chihuahua on the piazza that yaps at me is so important for that person, because when they get home, he's there, he's waiting for them. He wants to go out for a walk and bark at everyone and show everyone how he protects you. And that gives people another meaning in their life, especially when they lose the person they love the most, you know. So I think it's fascinating. Connection is really important. So.
Okay, cool. So linking to this, because you work in a few different industries which are particularly affected by what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
Events, media, Dr. Klown, even as a therapist, for sure. How do you get people to stay motivated? How do you stay motivated yourself?
Yeah.
When you're the first to be wiped down a lot of the times?
Yeah. Well, I think there's this idea inside me that everything has to change constantly. Okay, so my number one thing is, remember, growing up, I was sure I was going to, I wanted to be an accountant because my father was doing accounts.
Wow, I would never be.
Terrible. I went to sixth form. And I sat around people who were doing accounts with me, and I couldn't understand why I was doing it. So I finished my sixth form, took a year off and did this fantastic course called Foundation, that used to happen at university, where you study a bit of everything. And that's where I met Edward Curmi. And he was like, this psychology, what's it about?
Wow.
You know? So from there, I got inspired. And then, I felt at ease. So I really believe things are constantly changing for a reason. And they are going to change all the time. I told you, I went into Mount Carmel with the idea of staying there for the rest of my life as a clinician. And I felt so comfortable. But as I started working in the forensic wing, I was like, okay, this is it. I love this work. I'm happy to work around lifers. I'm happy to work around people who have committed a crime and have a mental illness. And then, one fine day, I become a father. And that changes everything for me. And it changes because obviously there's an experience which I feel, which is apart from being a father. One of my children was very unwell and was rushed into the NPICU, which is the neonatal and pediatric intensive care unit. Terrified, fear, traumatized. And I realized there's no one working here as a psychologist. There were, but they were very, very, very basic situation. They weren't caring for this area. So nothing, just a matter of months, I asked for a transfer. I said, listen, I can't keep on working in the forensic wing. I love it. I'll come back this maybe one day, but what is there? And they offered me obstetrics and gynae, which was like, where am I going? So I just decided to plunge myself in obstetrics and gynae. Never did gynae, never did obstetrics, but all of a sudden I'm working with parents and children, and parents who are having difficulty to bond with their children, and intensive care units and trauma, and good and bad news, but sometimes really bad news. And I loved it. But sort of that was the next phase in my life. Then I think, sadly enough, I felt it was time to move on from Mater Dei. I thought I'd never say this because I believe a lot in sort of your ancestors. And my ancestors are very clearly connected to what I do. I had my nan, who was Assistant Commissioner of Police, Scotland Yard, so there's the forensic side to me. Then I had my buzz nanu, who was one of the first psychiatrists in Mount Carmel. So you put all these people together, you understand why I was so passionate about all this. So leaving hospital was for me like closing the door on a lot of family sort of pain, sort of respect I had. But then the doors that opened once I closed those doors, I always know when a door closes for you, or when it's time for you to move on.
But you need to be ready to listen and look for the door. That
And
second
it took time, you know. It took me about 3 years to realize. And I remember I had to literally physically get a journal and write reasons to stay in hospital and reasons to not stay in hospital. When it was 3 times clearly obvious that I shouldn't stay, you know, and I was going to get burnout, I was getting problems health-wise, I said, okay, you know, what's the number one thing that I want to do in my life? And it's really ironic. It was take my children to school. So that was my I wanted to have a relationship with my children. I wanted to talk to them in the morning. And for me, nothing else was more. I wanted to connect with them. So again, connection. I also had the business, so that was sort of a bit of...
You were able to make those...
And I'm still a clinician, still practicing in private practice. And I think I found my balance like that. And I found more time.
You still touch matter age through the Dr. Klowns, to be fair.
Exactly. And that's the only thing I say, no, that I'm not letting go. That's a safe space. It's an NGO.
Safe distance. Yeah.
You know, there's always such
Which is
fantastic
having a huge
energy.
impact through your support.
You know, I do once every 6 weeks, we meet up.
Yeah.
I still feel after these 13, 15 years we've been together, I still am so touched by these clowns. Their storylines, the way they look at things. Remember, everyone's working in there for free. You don't see this much in today's world. And if we change that, it's going to be a problem.
In all strange hours of the day to be able to be there for the kids at the time that they need it.
We are, I think, I'm not trying to brag, but this is a fact. We are, I think, one of the last remaining clowning NGOs in Europe that just practice voluntary. So no one gets paid, you know. Complete heart. So I think there's something there. Again, it's about connection, community.
Absolutely. To me, if I have to wrap it up, you've given me 3 really cool points here. It is happiness. Seek the happiness, be happy, find it. The connectedness. You know, do it in a team, find the people you're going to be with, if it's the little chihuahua or a group.
Exactly.
And that adaptability.
Yes, change.
Yeah.
Change is...
Be ready for it. Be curious about it that came through.
Yeah, and don't be scared about it. When I say happiness, for me, I think my mother was a huge inspiration for me because she's naturally always happy. It's why she's always happy.
The right brain.
I could possibly write a thesis about that. So my biggest struggle is sometimes I meet people who tell me, but I'm not happy like you naturally, you know? And that's really hard, I understand. Not everyone has the privilege of waking up in the morning and saying,
just bouncing.
Or left. You know, if I go left, it's going to be a shitty day. If I go right, things are going to be a bit better. You know, that they always look at the brighter side of life. The glass is half full, not half empty. Some people really struggle with that. So that is really hard for some people. And I understand.
It's a habit they need to take,
Yeah, because
and
like everything else, if you put your mind to it and if you put discipline to it, I hate running, but I love it at the same time. It's a bit of a paradox. I am the last runner, I think, that there is in this world. You know, I don't think I can ever become an Olympian runner, but because I do something so difficult for me on a daily basis. When I tell myself in the morning, I go back to sleep. Or my wife tells me, you're such a loser, waking up so early, it's dark, be careful, it's dangerous. And off I go. I do it, and I come back and I don't know, I feel like King Kong, but the thing is I feel I've done something that I didn't think I was going to do. And for me, that's how I move to shift to the right mindset. And it's what I invite people, you know. So for me, jogging doesn't come easy, and I do it daily. For other people,
it's easier as you do it.
It does, you know. And you learn, you see, you know, you have good and bad, muscle memory. So I really believe in muscle memory, and I really believe sort of you've got to not just get comfortable. It's my biggest wish. I really wish people would do more exercise in this country. It's something really important, I believe.
Absolutely. I think with this, I'm really happy to wrap this around because, to be honest, it really goes. The navigating conflict with calm. Let's focus on the happiness, focus on the connectedness.
And can I say something else?
Mela.
This thing is really important for me. I hear a lot of men and women who tell me, I can't wait to retire. Honestly, I really think it's a bit of a trap. Unless you've got a plan of action, I do not suggest you retire. I have seen too many people retire and then overthink and not have a purpose. No wonder Dr. Klown attracts a lot of over
Yes.
60s, and they are the most loyal clowns because they have a project,
Yes.
they have a purpose. If you've worked all your life, and I'm sure there are people out there who are really and have put some, if you do not have another 2 or 3 different channels that you do, it could be gardening, it could be staring at cockroaches, whatever it is, there has to be something that makes your brain tick.
Yeah.
Because the minute you stop doing
That drives that, yes.
I really think it could be anything
lose
like
it.
working in a local
Yeah.
council,
Yeah.
helping out NGOs. I said there's so much to do, but the Japanese believe in this, and they reduce. They say you never retire. You go down to like
next chapter.
70% and then 60%, and you just keep on adapting. I think that is another very important thing we need to start talking more about.
Beautiful thread with our last episode on on retirement,
Okay.
because that is exactly it. It is, I think, about retiring with purpose.
Yes. Extremely.
And making it a plan. But if I may, I would say it starts from before, because we should be living the life we want to live before we retire, and not waiting to have all that free time to do it.
Yeah, there's always space for it. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. It was really, really nice having you, and thank you for joining us today. We'll see you for our next episode. Thank you, and take care.